I drove 4.5 hours for one reason. Not to give a campaign speech, not to pander, to make you a witness to what is going to happen. I will be our state's next governor, and it will have nothing to do with me. It is something God has chosen to do through me, a surrendered vessel, and many other people. Now I want to tell you why me and why now. So I come from a family that's known two lines of work for more than 100 years, and that's law and public service. Not politicians. Politicians have selfish and prideful hearts. They see public office as an opportunity to enrich themselves. Public servants do not. They're in it for one reason, to serve others. When I become our state's next governor, I will be the fourth generation public servant of South Carolina, all Democrats, I may add, in my immediate family. 100 years ago, Thomas Gordon McLeod served our state as governor. He was the first person to nominate a woman to be vice president of these United States. So growing up, my mother used to tell me about the parable of the talents. For whatever reason, it stuck with me. And all I wanted to do growing up was figure out whatever little aptitude the good Lord gave me. And whatever that was, I wanted to maximize it. The truth of the matter is, I wasn't very good in school. I was good at sports, football and baseball. Somehow I managed to get through law school. And when I started practicing law, I figured out this thing comes easy to me. To see the truth, to speak the truth, to take a lot of data and see how it all fits together and what it all means. The truth is, my career took off. My track record of being someone else's voice, representing someone else's interest, carrying their burden when it's too hard to carry, is unmatched in our state's history. That is the truth. I now understand that had nothing to do with me. It was him all along. You see, this spring, I was preparing to run for governor. I spent 5 months at my desk doing all my research, just like I prepare to do all my other cases. You know, I took the Mother Emanuel case when a white supremacist killed 9 parishioners. I represented 3 of them. It's one of the darkest moments in our state's history. I can't tell you how many lawyers told me, Mullins, you cannot win. You'll waste your time. You'll waste your money. You'll waste your talent. But you see, the good Lord put a heart in me that's been towards justice for as long as I can remember. And he put a righteous fire in my belly that burns hot. I now understand it is the spirit of the truth. So after 5 years of me pouring myself into that case, just that one case, I settled it for $88 million, one of the largest settlements of its kind in U.S. history, one of the single most important pieces of social justice in our state's history. Here is the truth, folks. Justice does not exist, it must be made. Change does not happen by chance. You must force it to happen. So this spring, I was literally getting ready to run for governor, to begin a political campaign. And something transformative happened to me. He ignited a storm in my life. I now understand why. Because although my heart had been bent towards justice for as long as I can remember, my heart belonged to me. It did not belong to him. And 70 days after that storm ended, I surrendered for the first time in my life. I got on my knees now. This is important. You need to understand he is on the move. I will be our state's next governor. So when I got down on my knees, I said, dear Lord, I do not care what I do for the rest of my time on this side of the soil. The only thing I care about is fulfilling your plan and your purpose for me. I told him I'll go to seminary school. I'll practice law. I'll sell this big house on the battery. I do not care. And I got up off my knees, and right before I went upstairs, something right here in the back of my belly told me to go outside and get some fresh air. I walked out on my front porch. It's about 6:30 in the evening. My wife and our young children were upstairs getting ready for bath. And the minute I got on the end of my porch, I'm hurrying, but this is important, so I ain't stopping. I'm here for the Father's business. So right when I got on the end of the porch, a guy was coming down my street who knew I was struggling with whether or not to run. He's a believer, by the way. And right when he got in front of my house, when I got on the end of my porch, his window was down, his white pickup, and he stopped. He looked me square in the eye, and he said, "Let's go." I knew exactly what that meant. I went upstairs, and I told my wife, "Honey, you're not going to believe this. God just told me to run for governor." Now, let me tell you why now. Everything that you think this America is about is at risk to the beast itself. And it is known as artificial intelligence. When you go home tonight, research. Bill Gates says that all of the jobs will be gone in 10 years. That's all. Capital A, capital L, capital L. Okay? Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, literally says that artificial intelligence will most likely be the end of humanity. But in the meantime, there'll be a lot of good corporations. Here we are 250 years into this experience known as America, this experience known as South Carolina. God's children are trapped in an incredibly corrupt political system where they have no access to quality education. They have no ability to earn their way out of poverty. They have no ability to earn their way up and out of this life. That's a problem. And I know that if the jobs are gone, then literally greed itself is going to take us right into the devil's workshop. Because idle time is the devil's workshop. Now here's the thing. This political establishment in South Carolina, it is corrupt to the core. Both sides of the track. These for-profits have been rigging the deal for longer than I've been alive. For longer than I've been alive. That is the truth. That's why nothing changes. That is why nothing changes. And so I just want you to remember, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to vote for me. Just remember that you were here on this day at this time, and that I shared with you that the change that matters is coming.
Separation of church and state.
That's a great question. That's a great question.
It's not a question, it's a statement, it's a fact.
No, let me explain that to you. So the reason how we've gotten trapped is the Republican Party has told the state a lie from the gates of hell. What they have tried to do is force our God onto others through the state. That is wrong. What they have tried to do is judge others for where they may or may not go to church. That also is wrong. You see, people who know him like I do know that he does not force himself on anybody. That's why he gave us free will. And he's certainly not going to force himself on others through the state. And so, see, some people just don't want to hear it, and it's okay. My campaign is not for everybody. My campaign is only for those of us who live in light and walk with the truth. But here's the beautiful thing. Servant leadership is for everybody, because the only label that matters is human being. And my job is to serve every single human being that calls this state home. Thank y'all.
Listen, it's the governor race. I'm gonna let him rip. So Dr. Jermaine Johnson gets the same amount of time, which whatever that was, you just
do it. Good evening, Democrats. I am Representative Jermaine Johnson, and I will be your next governor of South Carolina, y'all. Listen, I'm just honored to be back up here again, hanging out with y'all, because we have a state to save. We have a state to save right now, in this moment, at this exact time. See, I always talk about my history and the story of how I became the man that I am today. And I talk about how I was homeless and how I went to 7 different high schools, and how my first memory was my brother running away from home and being shot and killed by his best friend, and going through all those different things. But also, on top of that, what I was able to do was achieve the American dream by working hard, by getting that education, by earning my doctorate degree, by going into the College of Charleston and playing basketball on a scholarship, and also just giving back to the community. Now, when I went to go play professional basketball, I retired in 2015 after my other older brother, he passed away in a tragic car accident. And I came home because I wanted to be a husband and father to my family. And when I got back home, it was very difficult for me to transition into being a civilian. Because all of my life, I've been playing basketball for survival. I've been playing basketball for food, for shelter, for clothing. And I did not understand how to transition. And me and my wife, we had to end up going to counseling because I just couldn't operate right. And when my bank account would get to a certain amount, I literally would have cold sweats. I had anxiety issues. I couldn't sleep at night. And I went to the counseling, and then I ended up creating a nonprofit organization because I wanted to make sure that people did not have to go through what I went through coming up. I created this nonprofit to help young people, to help military veterans, and to help people who have been to prison to get a second chance at life. And that is what has got me discovered. I ended up going to an event in my community to help advocate for a young person who had just been stopped 3 times in 3 days by the police in the area. They had searched him and they let him go. And I went to this event to go advocate for him. And after I got done advocating, I got a standing ovation, y'all. I was like, man, it's crazy. But then as I was leaving this facility, I got a tap on my shoulder, and this gentleman says, Jermaine, you're exactly what we need. You're the future. These young people, they look up to you, they want to be like you, they respect you. And that's how I got involved with politics. That's how I started getting involved with the Young Democrats. That's how I got involved with the Black Caucus. That's how I got involved with everything. And I decided to run for office in 2020. And when I ran for office, you know what happens when a young person decides to jump out there. You're too young. You're too inexperienced. You need to wait your turn. And the one they also used to tell me was, Jermaine, you're too black. They're never going to elect you. But I ignored all the noise. I ignored all of that, and I ran for office anyways. And on election night, I was teaching a class at Webster University, and I got text messages and phone calls saying, Jermaine, you won. You got 76% of the vote. I became the first black and the youngest to represent my district in House District 80. We made history. So when I tell my entire story, I tell everybody literally, I went from no house to the state house. No house to the state house. And I travel around this state trying to let young people know that your past does not define your future. You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. You can go wherever it is you want to go. But you have to have faith. And you have to work hard. And you have to make sure that you are keeping your nose clean and doing what is best for you and your families. And that's what I'm doing all the time. And now, after I've been in the State House for 3 terms, a lot of y'all got introduced to me from this viral video that went around the country where I was fighting against the diversity, equity, inclusion ban. And once that happened, I got messages and phone calls from people all across South Carolina. Then I started getting phone calls and messages from people all across America. And then I started getting messages and phone calls from people all across the world. And they said, Jermaine, you gave words to my pain. You spoke to what I've been feeling. And we need you to do more. And that's when I decided to say, you know what? I'm going to run for governor of South Carolina. Because the people need a voice. Because in this state, for over 23 years, this state has been run by a single party. Single party rule. We have seen a Republican governor. We've got a Republican supermajority in the House. A Republican supermajority in the Senate for the first time in 150 years. We've got a Republican agriculture. We've got Republican education. We've got Republican, all the congressional districts with the exception of Congressman Clyburn. Every single leadership position, comptroller general, everything is Republican-led. So what is the excuse? We have given these individuals all of this power to change our lives, but yet they have done nothing. They have been irresponsible with the power that we have given them. What is the reason why we have counties, 17 counties without an OBGYN? Why are rural hospitals closing down? Why are we 43rd in education? Why do we have to ride over those 100 potholes to get here today? Why are we dealing with all of these issues in the state? It's because they don't care. Status quo keeps them in power. Status quo keeps everything the same. And we know what happens when status quo, these individuals, they continue to line their pockets with power. This is what happens. But in 2026, y'all, I think you know that, in 2026, in November of 2026, we have an opportunity for the first time to flip this state blue. We have candidates up and down the ballot, and I promise you, with a Jermaine Johnson at the top of the ticket, this state will be blue in November. Thank y'all so much.